Hello and welcome to the Master Integrator podcast. I'm your host, Paul Skelton. Now, this week things are a little different. Instead of me steering the ship, I'm the one in the hot seat. And the one asking the questions is Sean Carroll, the editor of Connected magazine. We get into the apprenticeship, the census, insurance, and honestly a fair bit I don't usually get the opportunity to talk about. So stick around, we'll be straight into it after a quick word from today's sponsors. This episode is brought to you by ADI Global, formerly Snap One, your one-stop partner for professional integration. ADI brings together powerhouse brands like Control4, Arachnus, Binary and Strong, along with a carefully curated range of distributed products, all under one roof. And they back it up with genuine integrator-first support from system design through to installation and beyond. They're focused on helping you deliver smarter, more reliable projects, because when you win, they win. If you want to learn more, give the team a call on 1-800-990-548. We're also supported by Sonance, the benchmark in architectural audio. This episode is brought to you by Blaze by Sonance. Blaze is a high-efficiency amplification platform built for the demands of modern residential and commercial installs. Onboard DSP, flexible connectivity, and the kind of output that lets you deliver a genuinely great audio experience without overcomplicating the rack. If you want precision and scalability in an amp solution that actually integrates cleanly, Blaze is worth a serious look. Sonance is available exclusively in Australia through Amber Technology. Now, if you're looking for serious design firepower behind your next project, let me introduce you to Colosseum. Colosseum is a white label design and documentation partner built specifically for integrators, specializing in cinema and media room design, lighting control, and automation engineering. And their new Spark program is a big deal. If your vendor is Spark enabled, you can unlock Colosseum designed cinemas at nearly half the usual cost. Lower upfront investment, immersive 3D walkthroughs, faster sales conversations. Colosseum really is the design and documentation wingman you didn't know you needed. All right, now a quick word on the format for today's episode before I hand over. Sean Carroll is the editor of Connected magazine, the magazine I called home for just over 13 years. And we've sat across from each other on this show before. It went well, although some of you reported back that my frustration was on show. There's a prevailing belief in the industry that I'm always angry, which really isn't the case. I'd call it perpetually disappointed. Anyway, I'm traveling a lot at the moment, so I called on Sean to take over the reins for a bit, flip the dynamic and let him run the questions for a change. So we cover how this show has grown over the past year, where the apprenticeship is up to, the census push and occupational recognition, where things stand on insurance, CEDIA's new Integrator Advantage program, and a couple of places I've been pleasantly surprised by on the road, all recorded from my dimly lit hotel room in Launceston while it was 4 degrees outside. So with that, I'll simply say, this is Master Integrator. Here's Sean Carroll. And me.
Hello and welcome, Paul Skelton. I am a host on Home Away from Home on the Master Integrator pod, and you are the host as a guest away from home. I don't know if that really works. Paul, welcome to your own podcast.
Thanks. I've missed you. Missed you terribly.
Likewise. It must feel good for you to be on the other side of the Master Integrator podcast for once.
I feel nervous. I'm not sure what's going to happen.
It's okay. We can cut anything. If you say something you don't want to say, we'll get that in post. It's all good.
The awkward thing is, I think this will be a very short conversation if we cut everything I don't want to say.
Classic Paul. But I mean that's an incredible talking point right there. The last time we spoke, the Master Integrator was still but a babe in the grand scheme of things. It was still sort of finding its voice and finding its shape. And how has it been? How have you reached the heights that you're at now? And God, how many podcasts have you recorded since then? Tens.
Yeah, I think this will be episode 30 something, 36, 37, something like that.
Yep.
Yeah. It's very different to what I was expecting it to be. So, I mean, when we spoke, I think I was getting a couple hundred people on Spotify, and that was it. And I thought that's where it was going to peak, and I'm spending a lot of time putting out just for, maybe 150, 200 people just to listen to me ranting. But I think it's significantly changed since I moved to YouTube. And some people would have seen on LinkedIn, but 24,000 unique listeners in the past 30 days. I kind of sit there and think, that's a lot more than I was expecting, and kind of seeing where they're coming from. I mean, if you said to me, like Indonesia, for example, which is my second or third biggest audience at the moment, how many people are in the industry, I would have said maybe 200 or 300, but I'm getting a couple of thousand people from Indonesia listening into this, and kind of getting an idea of how big that potential market is. And I like to use some marketing speak and say, I think I've become a movement. Master Integrator is a movement in the industry.
Oh no. Yeah, and like the production value has skyrocketed, but people are jumping on board in a big way. And yeah, like you mentioned, I was actually going to bring up the nearly 24,000 views in the past month. But why do you think people are coming? What's drawing them to the podcast?
I think it's because we're talking about things that the industry hasn't spoken about before, or things that have been on the periphery of the industry that have been a bit of a taboo subject. And that was a deliberate choice not to have suppliers on here and talk about product and go into specifications, because first of all, I don't understand that. I'm not a technical guy, and I'd probably just be sitting there going, okay, sounds pretty. But yeah, I've made a deliberate choice to stay away from that and speak about the things that I think integrators would find interesting, because they're kind of untapped. And I look at the episodes in particular that have actually seen some pretty good traction around domestic violence and the weaponization of smart home technology, about the ethical side. Obviously talking about the apprenticeship, which, that's been an ongoing issue for 20-something years. But it's those kind of things where we've been giving them a platform where people actually get a better idea of what is happening. I look at domestic violence and I go back to what we spoke about on that episode, where it really is, a lot of people don't realize that it can be weaponized, but it's going to be the first integrator who gets tested in court, and whoever that is, you're screwed. Even if you're completely innocent and found completely, non-liable for anything, you're screwed. And the idea of this podcast is to raise those issues now, so you can kind of prepare and avoid you being that integrator who gets done.
Yeah, definitely. And you're still wearing both hats. You're still working in your role with CEDIA, with your long acronym title, and obviously doing the Master Integrator Pod speaks to integrators as well. And has it gotten easier? Has it gotten harder? And what's that sort of dual role look like?
Yeah, I know you bring up my title there. What's wrong with my title? The Regional Development Independent Consultant for Australia and New Zealand.
Yeah, I just think if you're going to have a cool acronym, make it spell something. You're the
It does spell something.
What does it spell?
It's ridic. It spells ridic. It actually does.
Famously, Zed has the k sound.
Yeah. It's Ridicans, which sounds worse.
Yeah.
But
anyway, keep going.
Yeah, look, in terms of juggling the boat, it's kind of gotten both easier and harder in a lot of ways. So it's definitely easier because I think people now understand that Master Integrator is separate to CEDIA. And it's still obviously within the same industry and I'm the same person, but it's kind of, like I said, it's produced that platform that didn't exist before, and it's its own entity. It has gotten a lot harder though, in the sense that some people have tried to leverage that, and they don't like it necessarily when I correct them, because as you know, I can be somewhat blunt.
What?
I know it's crazy, and apparently that's a reputation I have of speaking my mind. But look, some people who might not be familiar with the background of it and the separation between CEDIA and Master Integrator, they do try and leverage, say, sponsorship of the Tech Summit if they get an episode of Master Integrator. And I'm sorry, but no, that's not
that. Yeah, very different. Well, I guess, have you had to draw the line somewhere? Are you able to go into it a bit, or have you drawn a line that you didn't expect to draw?
Yeah, it really was a case of people trying to leverage one against the other. And I do have to be very, very direct with them, because not to cast aspersions on some people. The most majority of people that I speak to, they're fine. They understand it. There are some people who are very much out for themselves, and that alone makes it very difficult in the industry sometimes, because of what roles they have in the industry. It's hard to navigate. And I get it. I'm a small business operator, so you don't get if you don't ask. But at the same time, once you ask and the answer is no, move on. Some people really struggle with that last part.
Okay, then moving on to more sort of bigger picture with the podcast. This is classic. Where do you get your ideas from? But is there an episode in the past 30 blur, as we mentioned? Is there an episode that you wish you could re-record with what you know now as your expert podcasting skills? Or is there an episode you wanted to re-record?
Yeah, I think I would go right back to the beginning. And the second episode that we did with Shannon Marsh, talking about ethics, I think would be a very different conversation today, because ethics, I think it's really one of the main reasons why we actually have the apprenticeship coming for the industry. And that is because we spoke more about making sure new students coming into the market understood the ethics of working in the industry, data handling, privacy, and finding themselves in those situations where there might be an ethical dilemma there, where normally they'd probably just fold and go along with what they're asked and not actually understand the full ramifications of what they're doing. So I think I'd go back and probably redo that episode, just because there's a lot more that's happened in the interim, and we could probably go a lot deeper into what that could actually be now. And I think even the market, they've changed their opinion, because when we recorded that episode, even though it was only a year ago, it was unknown. And some of the comments that we got were along the lines of, I didn't realize that we need to focus on this, and it's blowing my mind. And that kind of concerned me, the fact that that person had been in the industry for 30 years and never considered ethics. So I think I definitely want to talk to her and kind of expand on that. There's other things as well, like, Paul Vivian will be back on the show at some point as we progress with the apprenticeship. I know that was a pretty popular episode. This is me volunteering him, by the way, because I know that he listens to this. So, Paul, you will be back on the show to talk about the apprenticeship.
I fear he always gets volunteered to do things.
No, absolutely. Absolutely. And that's his lot in life. And he loves every second.
Awesome. Well, I'm happy for him. Well, it sounds like you're going to have... Shannon Marsh back on as well.
Yeah, I definitely think we will need to and kind of go into that, because it's not going to go away. I know some of these issues that get raised, it's kind of in vogue for a few months and disappear. Ethics is here to stay.
Yeah, definitely. And on Paul Vivian and the famed apprenticeship that is. There's been plenty of digital ink and real ink spilt over it. Where are we? What is the latest update? What are the next steps, and what's going on?
We are very much on track. So we're having regular working group meetings with the Powering Skills organisation, who have been absolutely fantastic in getting this together. Christina Bradley, who's been running that on the PSO front, has been very good at herding cats. Which I know I really need to articulate, because sometimes it sounds like I'm saying hurting cats, and that's very different. But it's a really good group of people who are there. And from the residential side, we've got obviously Paul Vivian, we've got Dave Meyer, Tom Ryan from Ryalec, we've got Stu Robertson, Paul McLean, Michael Daly, and then from the assistive technology side, Michelle Verdonk from the University of Sunshine Coast has been pretty active on there as well. So we're in the middle of creating the modules of what will be included. We've basically signed off on what the structure will be and how it will work, and we're still under very, very tight deadline to try and get everything done, ideally before Integrate, so we can still then work with the RTOs and the TAFEs to get it out and running for Q1 of next year. Ideally, we'll be open for students. That's still very much the goal. But yeah, there's still a hell of a lot of work to do, but we're in a far better position than we've ever been before. And yeah, we made the deliberate move to try and make this as broad as possible. So it's not just smart home. We do have the commercial sector involved as well. I reached out to the working group that were part of the Fixer, and they'd been trying to get something together for a few years, and their group. So we did bring them in as well. So we've been talking to Avixa itself. Everything now is going to be aligned with CDS certification and Avixa certification. So the idea is to get the student to come through, and ultimately it's their choice whether they go residential or commercial. We just want to make sure that they have those underlying skills and they have their open registration for cabling, and they can make that informed choice. And it also opens them up to potential new employers as well. So we're not going to just restrict it to simply residential. There's also so much crossover in Australia anyway, and the underlying skills are the same between residential and commercial for the most part. It makes sense to have kind of everyone on that same book.
Yeah, cool. Are you able to give us a slight sneak peek into some of those modules, or is it lock and key until integrate?
No. So there's going to be everything. Obviously, there are kind of core subjects that every student has to go through, including work health, safety, operating power tools, things like that. That will be part of it. That's non-negotiable. There's going to be an element where they obviously have to sit the modules they need for their open registration, which is obviously licensing requirement through ACMA. And then we're moving into things. There will be obviously systems integration side for home automation. There will be the basics of the communications protocols. There's a bit of assistive technology in there. There is ethics in there. Those two in particular are what have gotten us to this position. I mean, the disability and the assistive technology and also the ethics side, that's really what convinced a lot of people in the government to give us this apprenticeship and made them realize that it is growing and important. So it's not necessarily going down the path of hyper specialization. This is still a Cert 3 apprentice program. It's a 4-year program. At the end of it, the student should be able to come out of this, and you'll still need to hold their hand because they're still young, they're still new, and our industries are incredibly broad, but they'll legally be able to work, and you won't need to really handhold them too much on the basics. It's when you start to move into more of the system design or AV design, that's kind of where they'll need help. They won't be exposed to too much of that. That will be the Cert 4, that's post-trade, and that will come after it. But it really is designed to get them on that foundational level of they're not going to shoot themselves in the foot.
Yeah.
Too bad.
Yeah, cool. Last time we spoke, you can't have this discussion without the other, and that is obviously the apprenticeship is very closely tied to recognition for the occupation. So that is also something that you've been working hard on. Do you mind sort of giving us the update on where that is? I know we've got a census coming out, which is, you've been banging the drum for months and months and months about this census, and we're almost there. So is it the same drum you're banging, or is there? Yeah,
it is. It is the same drum, and it's the 11th of August. We census night, and if we don't get this, you will see a grown man go on a full fucking rampage. But yeah, we're at this point where we are not a recognized occupation. And that really is the basis for all of the trouble that we've had in the past of just not being known. We are what's considered to be an otherwise unclassified occupation. So we have made a submission, or I've made a submission as part of the ANSCO process to get a separate occupation code. That's all submitted. The apprenticeship has definitely helped that because it's shown that there's been interest from the government and they recognise us on the education front. Where we are now is we need the industry to show up and actually identify themselves. And that comes into the census of making sure that when you put your occupation in, that you actually do classify yourself as a smart home technology integrator or a smart home integrator. And it has to be those words. And those words were chosen for a very deliberate reason. And that's because it's different enough from the other trades that are already recognized. So if you just put integrator, that helps no one. It means absolutely nothing. It has to have the smart home element there, even if you are residential and commercial, even if you're admin for an integration company, put smart home technology integrator because we have a threshold we need to reach. If we get that number, we've also got the apprenticeship, extension of insurance as well, which is something else we'll mention in a second. Those are all the things that we need in place to actually get this occupation code. And if we can get that code, then it actually means, well, first of all, we're an industry, but it opens us up to things like skills recognition lists, skill shortage lists, skill migration pathways. It just means that you no longer really have to explain from scratch what it is that you do. When you're talking to insurance providers, for example, there is an occupation code you can refer to, and it means that we're a legitimate industry. And that really has been what's been missing for such a long time because, what is an integrator? It's that kind of ongoing debate, and we're finally in a position where we can actually finally solve that. And if we do it, we will be the first. And first with the apprenticeship, first with all of this stuff where, I think that's a massive, massive coup for the Australian industry to say we're the first. For more than 20 years, Connected Magazine has been the leading voice for the Australian AV and custom integration industry, and it continues to hold that position today. Commercial and residential integrators can head to Connected Magazine or connectedmag.com.au for the latest news, new products, and deeper insight into where the industry is heading. To learn more, head to the website. The link is in this episode's description, or have a chat with the team next time you see them at a trade show or local event.
I hate to use the same segue 3 times in the one podcast, and it's all related, and you bring up a great point, but it is all related, and it is that's why all of these things are such hard jobs to tackle, because they're all related. You can't have one without the other, and you can't have one without the other. But you mentioned insurance, and you can't have insurance for an industry that doesn't exist. And again, you can't have an industry pathway if the industry doesn't exist. So where are we on insurance? I know last time we spoke at the CEDIA Tech Summit, the big takeaway was, hey, if you think you're insured, you're probably not.
Yep.
Is that still the case?
And that's absolutely still the case. So if you are an integrator and you are insured as an electrician, you are not insured. There is no work around that. You're not the special case if you sit there and go, yeah, but me, I'm this. You're not. You're just not insured. You're giving away money to an insurance company. You don't get that money back. You are paying them for fun, basically. Where we are with that is I am talking to a specialist insurance provider. My hope is that at the start of the next financial year, we will be out with a insurance product specifically for systems integrators. And that will be very much based on what an integrator does every day. It will cover everything that they do, everything they need. If they are an electrician as well, go get your electrical insurance. That's fine. But this is very specifically for systems integrators. So we're working very, very closely with them. I've met the broker. I've met the actual underwriter. We're moving forward. We're just really at the position now of we know what an integrator does and we know what the insurance provider is willing to cover. We're just now trying to finalize the language of, again, what is an integrator, which then goes back to the whole discussion around occupation recognition, and we go into that vicious cycle.
Yeah. I was going to say the words vicious cycle. It does seem very vicious. Okay, well, jumping out of that cycle for a second, I know you rarely get to do that in your role, but also in your role with CEDIA, there is the recently released Integrator Advantage program. I've seen a few things about this online, but do you mind giving us the elevator pitch and explain what it does and what it is?
Yeah, so it is, joining an association is not an impulse buy. It's not something that you sit there and think, I wake up in the morning and say, oh, I've got to join CEDIA today. It's just not, and it is not realistic to think that. So I know that from my perspective, obviously I need members to go and do the lobbying work and the advocacy work, and that legitimizes what I'm trying to do from a government perspective. And obviously that does help integrators, but there is a transactional mindset that exists in everyone. And that really is a case of, well, what's in it for me? I mean, joining CEDIA, it's hundreds of dollars. Yeah. And it's not something that you sit there and go, okay, I'm paying this money. This is what I get out of it. Until very recently, where I kind of sat down there and thought, okay, so yes, there's all this benefit that's happening in the past, in the background with the advocacy work. But what is an integrator actually going to get out of it more directly? And to say, okay, if I'm paying this, how do I actually benefit financially straight away? And that's where this Advantage program comes into it. So what I've done is I've lined up a series of suppliers in the industry or so associated to the industry and gotten discounts in place for CDM members. And a few of those in particular have been very, very popular. ADI at the moment, I'm very much talking about because I'm doing all of the ADI roadshows, sitting in Tasmania at the moment, heading over to Perth for the next one next week, which by the time this comes out will be last week. But that there, if you are a CDM member, you sign up to the PCNA certification, which is their networking certification. If you complete that in 90 days, they'll credit you back the cost of CDM membership.
Cool. That's great.
So they're essentially paying for your membership. So straight away, you're walking out, you're getting CDM membership covered by ADI, but you're also getting a certification, which is recognized globally as pretty much the standard, especially for our sector. So yeah, they're doing that. The other big one that I'm getting asked about a lot is chow mein. So everyone uses chow mein drivers. Alan is giving 10% off all the drivers, even stackable on their existing discounts for CDM members. So those are kind of two I get asked about a lot. And then when we go into it further, we have discounts through Coliseum, who's a sponsor of this show as well. I mean, Paul's a sole trader and he's everywhere at the moment. So I know he's running around like a madman, but again, he's turned around and he's given a discount to CDM members. Interdyne for a long time have been given a discount to CDM members separate to this program, and now it's incorporated into this. There's discounted terms and conditions, contract terms and conditions through Rise Legal. That is one thing that I do like to very forwardly ask integrators is, when's the last time that you looked at terms and conditions and just watched them get all sheepish because they haven't. Yeah. Also, don't pull your terms and conditions from AI and don't pull them from someone else's contracts because you don't know where they got them from. They won't hold up in court. Just get them done and you're sorted. So we have a lot of programs like that. And then most recently, Amber Technologies come on board as well to do a 5% discount off Blue Sound. So yeah, there's definitely a lot of ways there to kind of get your investment back from CD membership, and that program will keep growing as well.
Yeah, awesome. That sounds incredible. All right. Well, yeah, I mean, you've touched on everything that I wanted to talk about. I guess before I ask for further comments on what's next, you mentioned you're in Tasmania. What are you doing? Where are you? Where are you going? How can people find you and just get you down for a second?
So basically, I'm traveling every week now until the start of August, and I'm somewhere at any point. So like I said, I'm in Launceston today. After this, I'm driving down to Hobart. Then I fly back to Melbourne on Friday. Then Sunday, I head over to Perth. And then it's Perth, Brisbane, Coffs Harbour, Cairns, Sydney, something else in there that I've completely forgotten, end up in New Zealand. But yeah, so basically it's back to back at the moment. So half of those are for the ADI Roadshow. So Perth, Brisbane, Sydney, Melbourne, New Zealand, that's all for ADI. So I'm going to be at all of those events there. With a few of the others, like where I am at the moment, Tasmania, I'm actually here as a guest of the local council. They're same with Hobart. They've flown me over basically to talk about how we can improve the awareness of what we do, but also looking at venues because they want to do training events here as well. The one thing I will point out that's very interesting about Tasmania and nowhere else in Australia is that it is the only state that recognises our training for CPD for electricians.
Really?
So it's something that has been in existence for a few years. It's just never really been used. So that's, again, part of what I'm discussing while I'm here as well, to see if we can get more people involved with our training so we can kind of boost the local market here. And it's quite a crazy market because where I am right now in Launceston with my creepy lighting, They actually have a massive electrical wholesaler, and they see it as one of their flagships. And the population of Launceston is 70,000, so it's a tiny place, and yet they've got this insane electrical wholesaler. And the amount of construction around here is crazy as well. So there's definitely potential growth in the market. It's just, again, finding the resources to complete the work.
Yeah, exciting. Very exciting.
It's exciting and exhausting.
Yeah. Well, you're doing good work. Thanks for being exhausted for us.
That's it. Just don't expect me to be nice about it.
Yeah, well, I mean, even if you're fully 100% rested, I don't expect you to be nice about anything. That is the Paul special.
Absolutely. And to be fair, not all heroes wear capes. And that is a role that I've decided that I should play.
Okay, I've gone a step far in complimenting you. I should have learned my lesson many years ago.
That was Sean Carroll, the editor of Connected Magazine, interviewing me, your beloved host of Master Integrator and industry icon. A big thanks to Sean for taking the time and for putting up with me on my own show. But 2 takeaways before we wrap. The Census is on the 11th of August. If you work in this industry, when you fill it out, your occupation needs to read Smart Home Technology Integrator. Those exact words. That single line on a form is doing more for this industry's recognition than most things that any of us will do on a job site this year. I don't care if you're not on the tools. In all honesty, I don't really care if you're not in this industry. We're at a tipping point. And the only way forward is to have as many people as possible put Smart Home Technology Integrator as their occupation. And I know some people don't like that term, or they think it only covers part of what they do. Well, tough. Those words were picked very deliberately to give us the best possible pathway to recognition. It's not something I plucked out of nowhere on a whim. And you don't even have to call yourself a Smart Home Technology Integrator to your clients. This is purely for the Census. So August 11, Smart Home Technology Integrator. The second takeaway, and honestly, I know this is the bigger ask. If you've got time, expertise, or even just a willingness to help shape what's coming next, particularly on the apprenticeship side, get in touch. This is where we genuinely need the most help right now. Instructors especially. If you're thinking about retiring, or you're just done crawling around roof spaces, but you've got 20 or 30 years of knowledge that the next generation needs, I need to hear from you. We can't put apprentices through the program if there's no one at the front of the classroom. Content reviewers, the same. People who can spare an hour to read through a module and tell us where it falls short. People who can run a single training session in their state. People who can sit on a panel at an event. People who have done this work for years and have an opinion on how it should be taught. You don't have to commit 40 hours a week. You don't have to commit to anything ongoing. Even one session, one review, 1 hour, it all adds up. And the more people we have, the less it falls on the same handful of volunteers who, frankly, are already giving more than they should. Visit masterintegrator.com.au and let me know how you can help. That's it. Just put your hand up. A big thank you to today's sponsors, ADI Global, Sonance Blaze, distributed by Amber Technology, Colosseum, and Connected Magazine. Without them, this show doesn't get made. And if this episode gave you something, share it with one person in the industry who needs to hear it. Thanks for listening to Master Integrator. I'm Paul Skelton. I'll see you next time.